I think one of my favorite analogies is to say that entrepreneurship is a lot closer to coding than you realize. And here's why. Because if you have ever been a coder in your life, one thing that you know is that if you write a piece of code and it works the first time, something is wrong. It never works the first time. And second thing you should also know for a fact if you've been coding is that if you have something that you are coding and you keep working on it and you keep debugging it, it's guaranteed to work. Eventually you will get it to work. There is no such thing as I worked on this code for 3 months and it's still not working. You will get it to work, guaranteed, both sides. So what that means is that when you become an entrepreneur, very important to understand that the first time you're going to fail, and if you keep working on it, you will succeed.
Thank you so much for coming to the Business on Mars podcast. How's it going?
Going very well. Thank you for having me, Rishi.
Yeah, it's amazing to have you. So, I mean, let's not waste any time for our viewers and for you as well. So let's just get right into it. I want to start with your background and your journey from where you started and where you are right now. And since you've done a bit of research, we know that you come from a family where everyone is a doctor, a teacher, or a government officer, and you became the first engineer and the first entrepreneur, so to say. So, what did it feel like to be that first person in the family to do that?
That's some incredible research there. Don't talk about it very often, but that is very true. I have 31 doctors in my family, among my cousins, my uncles, aunts, my grandfather. Everyone's a doctor. And
Hmm.
then I was the first person to break the family chain and take the engineering path. How does it feel? I think in the beginning, it was, for me, it was always kind of my passion, wanted to do something different. I was better at math, and I felt that's where I wanted to go. And I think
Right.
for my family, it was probably very scary because you're almost taking one of the, you're
Unconventional path.
taking the unconventional path. So
Yeah.
not sure what to do, not sure how it's going to pan out eventually.
Right. Well, that's pretty interesting because, how entrepreneurs are, it's always like, you have to do something different, you have to do something different. And you basically started that from there. So that's pretty amazing. And we also see that, you were teaching computer architecture at UT Austin. That's like a very comfortable, respectable path. And then what actually made the change for you to, get into entrepreneurship?
Yeah, actually, teaching was and today is my first passion. I really enjoy mentoring and teaching, and as we will come to at Vixel, we'll talk about how I spend a lot of time doing teaching today as well. But so yeah, that was the path, and I think what I realized while teaching was that I needed a little more freedom to set the vision. There were opportunities, there were trends that were happening in the market that were very difficult to explore while sitting in an academic setting. And I guess you phrased it very well. When you're an entrepreneur, kind of your goal is to break the mold. And while academia is extremely flexible, I think there is something about being an entrepreneur which kind of takes you to a whole different level because you're managing more freedom. Also, with more freedom comes more responsibility. But that's what led me to down the entrepreneurial path eventually after teaching.
Yeah, that sounds good. And let's come back to how you actually created your business. Let's talk about Flux 7 a bit and how you had the exit. So what can you tell us more about that?
Sure, Flux 7 was my first startup, first real startup. I had many
Hmm.
small failed side projects before that, like with every entrepreneur. So the first thing is I always tell entrepreneurs nothing that you think is going to work works as you
Yeah.
expected. There were several failed minor things here and there, but those were luckily side hustles. I did not leave my job to full time become an entrepreneur until after Flux 7 got some early traction.
Of
The
course.
idea behind Flux 7 was that me coming from an academic background and kind of that background of breaking the mold, the latest trend at that time was cloud computing. And I think I kind of have a career mission, I would say, that I have only connected the dots in the rearview mirror over the years. That my career has really taken a trajectory of improving productivity for people. Has
Right.
always, I think my PhD was on that. Then that at that time I was a hardware engineer, so it was about how can we use hardware to improve developer productivity. Then when I
Hmm.
saw the cloud, it was an immediate boost in productivity for me, and I felt that this was something I wanted to bring to a wider audience. So that's what led to Flux 7, which was how can we use the public cloud for making startups, making teams more productive. And the story behind AWS itself and how Flux 7 became an AWS shop was that,
Yeah.
again, in my continuous thirst for productivity, when I was still in my PhD program and we needed to run a lot of simulations, our in-house infrastructure was not able to support it. So I actually went on the internet in 2007 looking for ways to increase compute capacity and had found AWS and had actually used it. So I was one of the earliest customers of AWS EC2 in the world, technically. And
Oh,
then
damn.
when that time came in 2013 to start Flux 7, it was like, all right, productivity, AWS brings a lot of that and kind of hits my passion straight. It was also a catchy trend at that time. So
Right.
that's kind of where Flux 7 became focused on. It wasn't as simple as I'm making it sound. We initially did have a couple of other ideas and explorations, but I think within 6 months of starting the company, we latched on to this concept of we'll help use the cloud to improve productivity.
Right. And then you had an exit, and after the exit, you could have basically done anything, but you started Vixel. It's an accelerator specifically for tech service startups. What was that decision there? What was your mind space like when you actually had the exit and then started something new?
That's a great question. So after the exit, I guess with any second-time founder, you start to really kind of do a soul-searching exercise because at that time, work kind of looks optional. Do you want to do something? Do you want to do something? Do so for me, it was like, do I want to go back to teaching at the university? That was one of the options. Uh,
Right.
and the other option was let's just build a SaaS company. Let's just go take a much bigger kind of swing at the industry that we understood reasonably well at this point and had gotten experience. But one thing that I think came about was that kind of when I sat down to think about what is it that I enjoyed the most about the Flux 7 journey. For everyone, I think it's a different answer. Some people enjoy uh, the the money part of it. Some people might enjoy the latest technology. Some people that they got to innovate or they're building something big. For me, I felt the biggest thing that brought gratification to me was when somebody from Flux 7, one of my ex-team members or one of my customers would come and talk about how we just changed how they did something. There was just a change of perspective for them or change their lives, change their careers. They now do something different because they interacted with my team or myself. So I felt that's, again, the teacher in me, right? So that was one that kind of led me down this idea of whatever I want to do this time, it has to impact people, it has to change their lives. That is what brings me the most joy. So that was one. Then why the focus of Vixel on tech services, that came from a part of the Flux 7 journey that I can go back and quickly click on. That Flux 7 actually did not start as a services company. In fact, I came from a pure product background, no services
Right.
background at all. So we did not become a services company. We did not start as a services company. We started as a typical product company building a SaaS solution to save cost on AWS. But
Right.
what happened was that, like is the case with many highly technical founders, that you get more focused on the technology and sometimes leaves your customers behind a little. So we definitely
Right.
created that scenario, and we were a few years ahead to the market. And the but the interesting shift that started happening was that we would go in there to do a demo of our product, and we would walk out of there with an offer to do a consulting for them because customers are trying to, while we are talking about advanced cost saving techniques, they're asking us a simple question: how do I get started on AWS? So I think one of my customers have said something along the lines of, you guys are in high school and we are in kindergarten. And
Right.
the state of affairs in 2013, 2014. So that led to us converting into a services company. And one thing that really jumped out and is very memorable of that transition is that when we were product founders, there was a world there to support us and get ready. Basically, there were local meetup groups, accelerators, there were people who were wanting to be on our board, there were investors who would want to talk to us and see what we have to say to them. There were journalists approaching us to come and talk to us because this was a AWS budding product company. The day we said we are a services company, all of that just disappeared. There was no ecosystem. We were a very lonely journey of figuring things out from there on. We lost the support ecosystem, and we also lost the knowledge ecosystem because there are zero books written on how to build a tech services company. So all of a sudden, you fend for yourself. So having gone through that transition, actually built something of high value and selling it uh, against conventional wisdom, we felt that there is a path unexplored here. Again, going back to the other pattern you mentioned about me, right? Have to do something different. While
Hmm.
everyone else wants to build a product startup accelerator or product company, we said, well,
Yeah.
there is a lot more potential here that people are not looking into in building quality tech services companies, not just staff augmentation shops, but rather AI first, AI accelerated, differentiated businesses. And so that's what led to the creation of Vixel. And
Yeah.
how we ended up in kind of an unconventional, building a very unconventional accelerator that focuses on AI first services companies.
Yeah, and that sounds pretty interesting because like we're in a world where everyone wants to build a SaaS, everyone wants to build apps, and it's not like the sexy approach, so to say. Everyone wants to do this, everyone wants to do build an app, but you chose tech services, and this is where you made the distinction of going a different route and doing it all together.
Absolutely. I think that's been kind of a career trajectory of mine as well, just doing something different. I think it's a lot more interesting to solve a problem that nobody has solved before and
Of
makes it
course,
and
and build
make
it
it
from
easy.
scratch. Yeah.
Yes.
That's a pretty good thing. And while we're talking about this, we were just, I mean, if you think about it, AI is actually all around us. And you said that you're building that's something that's AI first, right? And with everything being AI related, everyone talking about, this is AI powered, we have AI. It's kind of like a buzzword at this point. How do you think it has changed the game for like the tech services business?
I think it's one of the most impacted industries at the moment. So when we started in 2022, AI was not this much of was catching on. But so I guess I'll start with the three tenets that we really pushed for. One was, and I already hinted at it, but I'll just be very elaborate on that a little. One was that you to build a good tech services company, you need uh, disciplined execution, be able to plan and execute rather than just be being swung by whichever way the wind is blowing that morning, which is a very typical tech services problem, by the way, because most founders are
Right.
just looking at the next dollar and don't have a plan. The
Oh,
second thing that we focused on was that you have to become differentiated. You cannot be a generalist in this industry to build a quality tech services company. So we were a specialist, not just in AWS and Flux 7, but putting containers on AWS was my team's specialty, and that is
right.
what we specialized in. And that was a horizontal positioning which worked very well at that time. But point being that you have to know your place in the world, you have to have a positioning and a differentiated one. And the third thing we pushed for was that you have to be proactive about demand generation. You cannot just sit and wait for referrals to give you customers, because that's not how you build companies. So as the AI actually came into the picture around 23, 24, things started to get serious. And in the last 1 year, I think it's changed the game completely. The One thing that became very clear to us was that our three tenants, fortunately, are hitting even harder than before, because you need a strategic plan. You need to understand what your financial planning is, where you are headed still, even more than before, because you need to have a hiring plan. The only difference is that back then we used to discourage people from hiring, but now it's like the discouragement has gone up three notches, frankly, because the idea is that why have you built an agent for this first? Have you tried to do an alternate means first? The second about
Right.
differentiated positioning, I don't think it has ever been more important than it is right now. Building a staff augmentation company, in my opinion, in 2026 is just a bad idea all around, a generalist one at that. But yes, if you bring in deep skills that are just not available on the internet, uh, you can be very powerful now, way more effective than you could be without AI. So if you have a deep understanding of either a technology or a vertical or issue that you know how to solve that others do not, or you can use AI as a scaffolding to reach for much higher heights than you could before. So differentiated positioning has become significantly more important than
Of
before.
course.
And the third and the last piece about building your own demand generation engine goes hand in hand with one, specialization, and two, the amount of noise in the market is already exponentially
Yeah.
increasing. AI. So creating your own unique position and doing good job of building your own brand and standing out from the crowd is more important than before. So uh, basically at Vixel, the three key tenants are still the same. The one or two the two tenants that we have since added, by the way, with AI becoming more ubiquitous. One is a lot more focus now for our companies on building an agent platform inside an internal agent hub where they are constantly building agents and have a process for building it. How do you identify what should be automated using AI? How do you budget for it correctly on the P&L when you are investing in
Right.
agents? How do you where do the cost of tokens go? Do they go in the above the line or below the line? Is it in the gross margin or is it in the net margins? And those are some really
Right.
important questions that have to be resolved. So there is that arc of work. The other arc of work is that with AI, human connection has become a differentiator. And this,
Of
I think, is
course.
one of the biggest opportunities for services companies because that was one fundamental difference between SaaS and services, that services built on human connections, SaaS built on demos. And so services have actually are finding themselves, in my opinion, in a better place right now because they know how to do this stuff, how to understand a
Right.
customer, how to build something custom to their needs, how to do a discovery of a problem rather than just say, here's my solution, take it or leave it. So, so that part has made it even more important for services to become really good at being able to do the sales and discovery component. So at Vixel, the two new tenants we have added is one is the actual AI first uh, platform and how to
Hmm.
actually improve delivery as well as end to end the revenue cycle of services. And the second part that's really important in that is how to strengthen the human connection and become even better at it than before. So we are actually doing more sales coaching now. We are actually connecting our portfolio companies to experienced sellers so they can learn from them and also get their help. So to
Right.
stand out from the noise.
Yeah, that's all of this sounds pretty interesting. And as you said, with AI, like we've been hearing about AI for a long time, but in the past year, it's been insane with like cloud code and a lot of these no code and vibe coding coming into the picture. It has become fairly easy to start from an idea and just go to execution in 2 days, right? If I need to do something, I can just maybe go to Lovable, go to Replit, and I just type if I have an idea, and then I can have a MVP ready by tomorrow, right? So it has become completely automated and easy in a sense, right? When you look at
Absolutely.
the SaaS space or like the services space. So that really resonates with me, and I really feel like it's always, and anyways, it's gonna go to a much higher place from now on, if you
Yeah.
think about it.
What has moved from software to connections, human connections,
Hmm.
and deep subject matter expertise, things that
Right.
are not available. Like basically, just being a computer engineer or being really good at writing software is still valuable. I'm
Of
one
course.
myself, but I
Hmm.
think the value of that particular skill has disproportionately gone down, and having deep expertise in non-conventional areas, I think has gone up. So that's one. And then obviously the ability to do a discovery and build a human connection. So kind of that Lone Ranger plugging into your laptop and coding for 20 hours, which was a very, very glamorized thing in the culture,
Yeah.
in our field, I feel is less important. You need people who can talk, you need people who can connect to humans, and people who have expertise beyond just that they can code really, really fast.
Yeah, that's an amazing insight. Let's get to the last question here. It's a very important question. There are so many entrepreneurs and business people listening here from all sorts of walks of life and all sorts of different niches, backgrounds. What is one honest advice that you would like to give them as an entrepreneur? Specifically in tech services, and let's skip the motivation stuff. Let's get right into it. What is the real thing? What is the real piece of advice that you would give them?
So I would say I'll put it in three bullets if you don't mind. And I think one of them
Hmm.
would be is you have to become good at making the connections, just coming human connections, being able to talk to
Right.
people. That's going to be very, very important that you can talk to people, whether it's for getting advice, whether it's for getting feedback, whether it's for selling to them.
Of
All
course.
of it is going to require. So definitely focus on that skill before you start your company. And
Right.
so folks who are shy, folks who are uncomfortable posting on LinkedIn, you need to get over it, in my opinion, before you start a company.
Right.
The Second thing that I would absolutely focus on, because coding used to be in the top three, it's no longer in the top three, in my opinion. So I think the second thing is understanding of what a business really is, how money flows through the business, what does
Right.
it actually mean to run a business, what is profit, what is gross margins. It's not a very long or complicated thing for most people, especially coming from a tech background, but it's something that's really important. And this is universal to whether you're building frankly, I don't even know if there's a difference between a product company and a services company in the future because of the way things are going. So I think it's kind of universally applicable to both sides. Don't be shy, build the connections, understand your financials. And the third and the last piece is understanding what it really means to build a business. Uh, I think I come from a coding background, and assuming many of the entrepreneurs listening might actually be in similar background. I think one of my favorite analogies is to say that entrepreneurship is a lot closer to coding than you realize. And here's why. Because if you have ever been a coder in your life, one thing that you know is that if you write a piece of code and it works the first time, something is wrong. It never works the first time.
Yeah.
And second thing you should also know for a fact if you've been coding is that if you have something that you are coding and you keep working on it and you keep debugging it, it's guaranteed to work. Eventually, you will get it to work. There is no such thing as I worked on this code for 3 months and it's still not working. You will get it to work, guaranteed, both sides. So, what that means is that when you become an entrepreneur, very important to understand that the first time you're going to fail, and if you keep working on it, you will succeed. And the success is going to come somewhere in the middle of that journey. So, people who give up, people who think it's going to work the first time, so spend too much energy on the very first iteration and then it fails and they'll lose their steam. Don't do that. Think small chunks, just like code, the rules are the same. Commit small, do small, test your small idea, test your MVP, test your messaging fast. Keep iterating, keep learning, keep debugging. As I said, get the feedback, come back and tweak and stay at it, and you'll make it guaranteed. What tends to happen is people spend too much energy on a single iteration, assuming this one's gonna work, doesn't work,
Yeah.
or people give up too early thinking this is never going to work. That also does not happen. You always make it. You just have to stay at it and keep debugging.
Of course, that's pretty interesting, and that's a good way to end this because the connection between coding and entrepreneurship, I think that's gonna drive the point home because you have to keep at it, and you have to keep putting your hours in, putting your reps in, and you have to keep grinding until it works. So that's a pretty
Yeah.
nice thing to take away from this conversation. It was amazing. So one last thing, where can people find you and your business?
So the best way to find me is on LinkedIn. If you search my name, assume you're going to be sharing my name with the video. So that is absolutely the best way to get in touch with me. And our website is vixel.com, Vixul.com. And that's the other way to learn more about the business, learn more about the company. Or you could just follow us on LinkedIn. We are very regular posters.
All right, sounds good.